Hello, everyone. So happy Holy Week. This is Wednesday of Holy Week, and it's often called Spy Wednesday because on this Wednesday, Judas decides to betray Jesus. And there is a reason why he decided that, why he came into agreement with the devil. Okay? So, yeah, the devil does not like Jesus, we know. And for Judas to come into agreement with the devil, there must be a reason why Judas decided that. And this is why. So in the Gospel of Matthew, okay, chapter 26, verse 6, where Jesus was anointed at Bethany by Mary of Bethany. And it says right here, verse 6, now when Jesus was at Bethany in the house of Simon the leper, verse 7, a woman came up to him with an alabaster flask of very expensive ointments, and she poured it on his head as he reclined at table. Verse 8, and when the disciples saw it, they were indignant, saying, why this waste? For this could have been sold for a large sum and given to the poor. So we also learn in the Gospel of John that it was actually Judas who said that. Why this waste? This could have been sold for a large sum and given to the poor. And then verse 10, but Jesus, aware of this, said to them, why do you trouble the woman? For she has done a beautiful thing to me. And verse 11, for you always have the poor with you, but you will not always have me. In pouring this ointment on my body, she has done it to prepare me for burial. And verse 13, truly I say to you, wherever this gospel is proclaimed in the whole world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her. And then we go down to verse 14. Then one of the 12, whose name was Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests, and this was on that Wednesday, verse 15, and said, what will you give me if I deliver him over to you? And they paid him 30 pieces of silver. You see the 30 pieces of silver. Oh, wait, let me read verse 16 first. And from that moment, he sought an opportunity to betray him. So now we go to the 30 pieces of silver. This is not random. It's a fulfillment of prophecy. And we know Jesus, he fulfills like all the prophecies regarding the Messiah, which is how we know he is the Messiah. He has fulfilled all the prophecies. And if you go here to Zechariah, Zechariah, the same book that talks about Jesus riding in on a donkey. There is more. Let's go to Zechariah right here. So in the book of Zechariah, verse, let me read it here. Verse 12, chapter 11, verse 12. Then I said to them, if it seems good to you, give me my wages, if not, keep them. And they weighed out my wages, 30 pieces of silver. Verse 13. Then the Lord said to me, throw it to the potter, the lordly price at which I was priced by them. And so I took the 30 pieces of silver and threw them into the house of the Lord to the potter. You see? And so they considered their Lord to be worth 30 pieces of silver. And God, of course, in verse 13, he's just flabbergasted. He's like, what in the world? Throw it to the potter. The lordly price at which I was priced by him, 30 pieces of silver. And yeah, it was really sad. Oh my goodness. You could feel God's heart in that verse. Like, wow, that was really, really sad. And so when Jesus was anointed by Mary at Bethany, Judas was really offended by that act of pure love and worship. You see, Mary, that expensive ointment was worth like a year's wages, like over $30,000, considering how much that ointment was worth. And so she poured out like a year's wages at Jesus' feet, pouring it on his head, as some accounts say. And Judas was really offended by it. He thought it was a waste. He thought it was wasted on Jesus. He was like, we could have given this to the poor. And, Apostle John, he was like, not that Judas cared about the poor. He wrote it in his account. He was like, Judas used to help himself from the money bags. And he didn't even care about the poor. And so Judas, his heart was in the wrong place because he was in it for the money. And he didn't trust in Jesus to be his provider. And so when he saw that this money, which he thought would be very useful to them, was wasted at Jesus' feet, Judas was offended. And so he decided to go do things his own way. And then he went to the Pharisees and he was like, "What will you give me to betray Jesus?" And they gave him 30 pieces of silver, which is a really, really small amount. I think it's like barely worth $20. But Judas, he took it anyway because he just wanted to make some sort of profit somehow. But the devil put it in his heart to betray Jesus after he saw the wonderful act of worship that Mary of Bethany did. And he called it a waste. And then Jesus, he didn't see it as a waste. He saw it as a very beautiful thing. So much so that wherever the gospel is proclaimed across the world, that what Mary of Bethany has done for him will be proclaimed with the gospel. That is huge. That is a huge honor in remembrance of her. That is so wonderful. And so every time we remember Spy Wednesday, it's not just about Judas's betrayal, but it's about his betrayal after this wonderful act of worship. We must be careful, guys. There will be a lot of people who see Christians who love Jesus and they would be wondering like, why do you waste time? Why do you waste time going to church? Why do you waste time worshiping in your room all the time? It's such a waste. They're going to say that word a lot. It's like a waste, a waste. That's because they are after that Judas spirit. Their heart is after money. Their heart is after the things of the world. And so they think of prayer and church and reading the Bible and running after Jesus, and us Christians pursuing Jesus. They think it's a waste of time. They think it's a waste of money. And every time Christians, we sacrificially give into the kingdom of God because we give into what's going to last forever. And people don't understand this. They try to give in the stock market. They're like, "Oh, I just want to invest in a stock that's going to last, that's going to have continual increase." People spend their fortunes in the stock market, and all they want is something that's stable. But in reality, we invest in something greater that's more lasting than the stock market, that's more lasting than companies. We invest in the kingdom of God, knowing that when you give to God, he gives it back, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. God's promises are so true and everlasting. Kingdoms rise and fall, dynasties come and go, but Jesus, he's still here. He is still alive and he's still king. Look at Caesar, guys. Caesar used to be called the son of the divine, the son of heaven, blah, 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 all those blasphemous names. And now the only thing you know about Caesar is Caesar salad. So yeah, well, guess what? Caesar is a salad. Jesus is king. He is still king, guys. So yeah, we must realize that what we do for Jesus, even though the world sees it as a waste, they're like, "Oh, why do you spend like so much money at the church just lining the pockets of the pastor?" No way. It doesn't work that way. We give into the church, into the kingdom of God, because we do it out of obedience to God. He tells us what to give, and we give because we love Jesus. It is not so that the pastor could get a raise like the world thinks. No way, it doesn't work that way. But guys, we must realize that when we give sacrificially like Mary did, she took a whole year's wage and dumped it at Jesus' feet, A lot of people would see that, not just Judas, but a lot of people of the world would see that and be like, "Wow, that is like a waste." But guess what? We know better. We know that what we give to Jesus lasts forever. Look, Mary of Bethany, she poured the oil on Jesus' feet thousands of years ago. Thousands of years ago, this account happened. And we are still talking about it as if it happened yesterday. Yeah. So yes, guys, and wherever across the world the gospel is preached, what Mary did will be told in remembrance of her. And that is huge. People build pyramids and statues of themselves, hoping that people remember them, but people forget them. But if you really want to be remembered, if you really want something to last forever, you give it to Jesus. And it's going to be remembered. It's going to last forever. Because Jesus remains the same yesterday, today, and forever. He is unchanging. more unchanging than the mountains. He is forever. And I want you guys to know that on this Spy Wednesday, on this Holy Wednesday, which is not just about Judas's betrayal, but also about the difference, that stark line that's between people who are pursuing Jesus and people who are pursuing the world and the devil. People who are pursuing the world and the devil are going to be like going to be like Judas. They're going to call to waste. But people who are pursuing Jesus, they know that this is going to last forever.